and the Dogs are the real deal. 32 points to 20. Jammer, you're a Bulldog. You bleed blue and white. You must have been happy with that second half performance because they showed an enormous amount of leadership to claw back that lead and then to really go on with it.
Yeah, just quickly, Ben, to follow up on your comments about the round of football. What an incredible round it's been so far with the message to all players and teams and people is never give in. Just keep on fighting. Just keep on holding on. If you've got an opportunity and you've got time, just hang tough and don't throw the towel in. Like the Gold Coast got that, what I thought was a consolation try, Phil Sami just before half-time, and then they mounted the comeback. Even Ethan Strange's cover tackle on Connor Tracy. Wow, like he was keeping Canberra in the fight at that moment. But you know what stood out for me, Dobbo, about this round of football so far? We didn't have any sin bins.
Yeah. And the football's been unbelievable.
And the football has been fantastic. Just
the last couple of weeks has been outstanding.
Well, the thing about it is that when you, I don't want to get too bogged down on this, but as we all know, it has been changing the course and the results of these games because it's been played so much. So the referees have put the whistle in the pocket. They're still penalising. They're not sin binning.
It's been great. It's been
and
great.
You've seen the football this weekend has just been like elite.
For the first time in a long time, I don't know who favourite is. And I know this round's not over. And we got Melbourne Storm. We got some like games that come. But last week, Magic Round, I walked away from that going, who's the favourite?
The competition is wide open.
Yeah,
I think we saw one of the favourites, two of the top teams play yesterday at GIO. But I think the Bulldogs have put their hand up. Anybody who questions their validity at the top of the table now, do it at your own peril.
It was a great comeback win, but there'll be elements of that performance that they'll need to go and assess. Look, one of the things when you get games like this, you get excited for finals. I know we've got Origin around the corner, but these are the types of games that are very finals-esque. And when, it's sudden death football or it's the winner takes all and goes to the grand final, wins it all, these type of games are going to be so good to watch because we all know it's not over until it's over. But just in terms of that Bulldogs performance, I've got to give them credit, not just for their second half in general, but it was the last 37 minutes because the first sort of 3 to 4 minutes, Canberra came out all guns blazing. They came looking for the kill. And again, I'm talking about hanging on in there. That try save on Papali'i, I think it was, who was just like a battering ram. Somehow they got underneath him, kept themselves in the contest. Like, Canberra shouldn't be too disappointed with their performance. They were incredible. They played their part in this contest. The atmosphere down there looked amazing. And it's a credit to what the Canberra players have built to get a sold-out stadium there at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. And it was just two teams, 1 versus 2. That is what you want. And there's lessons there for both teams. Like you say, Stephen Crichton.
What are the lessons?
Well, Canberra know that first half performance, they can mix it with any team because their first half performance was the best.
I didn't ask you.
Well, I'm just telling you.
They asked the guy that's played 400 games.
I'm just weighing in, sorry. Go ahead, Gemma.
I think that there was probably a bit of vulnerability there from the youth of some of those Canberra players. Yeah. And I think sometimes it's finding a way to stem that flow of possession. And we see it with a lot of teams. And sometimes the answer isn't clear. But I think you've got to try and disrupt the team's momentum. Yeah. By maybe playing a bit scrappy. And those that know rugby league would know what that looks like. It's just making it into a bit more of a scrap. They just allowed the Bulldogs to play with so much free-flowing momentum. Sometimes you've just got to try and drag them in.
Is there a little bit of the old rugby league adage, Jimmy, that you learn more from a loss than you do from a win? And I think in terms of the Raiders, and you touched on that youthful playing group, in terms of their football development, they'll learn a lot of valuable lessons out of that game yesterday. They played off the charts for 40 minutes. They were so clinical. I think they clearly showed their hand that they are a genuine premiership threat this year. A lot of us thought might have been, maybe 12 months early in terms of the Raiders being the real deal, but I think they are. irrespective of the way
result.
irrespective of the
I'm
way
with
that
you.
the Bulldogs were able to mount that comeback yesterday. Dobbo, we'll just backtrack a little bit, just to all the mums. We need to say Happy Mother's Day because
I
it's
said
women in league round. Well, it was it fell a little flat, mate. To
I
be
don't
fair,
think it did.
there was a lot of
look.
anticipation and a lot of excitement.
What do you want me to
it's
say?
a big day
Because
for
you're
all
the
the
host.
mums
I've
around
got
Australia.
three mothers that I have to make sure that are all looked after.
No,
plus
it's not that.
my
It's
own
been
mother.
everybody else.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, Happy Mother's Day to every mum out there. But it is triggering for some people who don't have their mums anymore. So I'm just saying, Happy Mother's Day. All right,
Mate.
You know, like I'm all my kids. All
In the
their
fair
mothers
income
were looked
department,
after.
Dobbo, it is a special day for all the women around Australia. It's women in league round. To the mums, I hope the kids, I hope the grandkids, I hope they've all spoiled you rotten.
I don't
They
come
made you
in here
breakfast
trying
in
to steal
bed.
the
They're
thunder to
looking
make you
after
Mr.
you.
Good Guy,
Well, mate,
please.
you talked underwater with a mouthful of marbles for the first 5 minutes of the program and didn't do a very good job. So
Well,
I'm just
I just was
clarifying the
saying,
record. It's
Amity,
a big
Happy
day.
Mother's Day. Kylie, Happy Mother's
There you
Day.
go.
Wendo's Happy Mother's Day. Patrice, Happy Mother's Day. You want me to keep on going? Like, you know, a lot of them don't like me, but I mean, I'm just saying, Happy Mother's
Well, they're
Day.
only human.
Well, okay. Righto. Can we talk about Jamin Salmon just quickly? I mean, seriously, this bloke.
What are you talking about? Don't jump on
Why
that
would he have
bike.
to do that? Why does he have
Why
to go to the
wouldn't he?
camera? Because move on. I mean, this is 2 or 3 years ago that him and Ricky
But
had a
that's
spat.
what our game's made on.
Well, I mean, I
Okay,
didn't
last
like it.
week someone videoed at Magic Round and had the same comments as Ricky. Ricky laughed.
Well, I don't think it was.
So
right.
then he would have saw that. It's okay. Grow up.
Well, I don't think he should have said it. I think he should have
Oh,
scored the
okay.
try, gone back. I mean,
What,
fuck
That's
so
a genuine
do you
feud.
think? So do you think that hurt Ricky's feelings?
No, I don't think Ricky
There
cared.
you go.
No, Ricky wouldn't give a rat's.
There you
Look,
He
it's
doesn't
a
give a rat's.
genuine
There you
feud.
go.
Well, why
So
do
that's
it?
good.
Why
It's-
do it?
Well, because it's a genuine feud, and he obviously still feels strongly about it. He's already had one go. I think the last time he did it, he was playing for Penrith.
Listen,
Now he's
Yeah,
in
years ago.
Canterbury.
Listen, if someone called you a weak-gutted dog,
I've called it all the time. Sometimes
Yeah,
they're
but
not
that's-
wrong.
He's been called a lot
No,
worse than that. Don't worry about that.
By you, Gordon.
well, I wouldn't call you a dog. I'd call you hippo or something.
Yeah.
Like weak-gutted.
Jammer, can you? I mean, seriously, was it required? I mean, they got themselves back in.
Was it required? No, but does it add to the theatre and does it add to the spice in the build-up to next time these two clubs play each other? Which I'm not sure. I've not looked at the draw if they play each other again. But geez, they're fine. They're both finals bound. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't that? It's just going to be part of what will already be a fantastic build-up, Dobbo. It's just part of the spice. Should Salmon have done that? Probably not. But I mean, it is what it is, and I don't think Ricky Stewart or any of the Canberra fans are losing any sleep. Look, they were happy to boo him. Salmon obviously puts himself in a position that he's okay to play the villain. I don't quite know what led to these comments, but it's all just part of the theatre of rugby league. The hero, the villain. You know, it's.
He should be booed
to be
and
honest,
he
Dobbo, I'm surprised you brought it up because from all the football things that we've got to talk about, that was not on the rundown or in my thoughts coming into
Well, it was in
Triple
my
M here today.
thoughts. It was in my thoughts. Can we just
Why is
talk?
that?
can we
Rugby
talk
league's
about-
been founded on feuds, Dobbo.
Yeah.
So whether we like
It's the
it or
book of
not,
feuds.
it's part of the narrative. They don't play again, Jammer. They don't play again in the regular season. So it only adds because
Finals.
at this point, they both look as though they're going to be there in September. It just adds another layer to the narrative.
What about the performance of Stephen Crichton? Seriously, that 10 minutes after half-time, Jammer, it was as good as any 10 minutes I've seen in any football. He just took the game single-handedly and destroyed the outside backs. Poor old Matt Timoko and Sebastian Chris on both sides. They had people running them all the time, both the centres for Canberra, but poor old Matt Timoko, he'd be having nightmares about what Stephen Crichton running at him. It was just brilliant.
The right hand side and the left hand side, led by Viliami Kikau as well, was devastating. Like I say, the opening 3-4 minutes of that second half, the Canberra Raiders looked like they were going to pick up where they left off in that first half, and then Crichton just given an opportunity. The way he held the football, I mean, how do you do that? How do you run at full speed and have your arm holding the ball out, moving it around? It's
I've seen
Holding
Sonny
like a
Bill
tennis
Williams.
ball.
Sonny
Yeah,
Bill
it
Williams used
did,
to have the ability to be able to hold the
Like-
football like that.
Yeah, like, you're saying about Timoko having nightmares. Like, what's he supposed to do? Like, how do you defend that?
Well, it was Seb Chris
Yeah.
who he really schooled
Yeah.
in that second half.
You don't know what to do. It's one of those plays that I think, or there was a couple of times he got the ball in similar situations, and you'd look to plan for it, but sometimes you've got to admire great skill and great determination and ability.
Well, you talk about 11 out of 10 performances. That was a 15 out of 10. That 40 minutes from Stephen Crichton. And when he was at Penrith, we saw Gordie on numerous occasions where he could tear teams apart with that style of brutal attack. Since he's been at the Dogs, I think often his defence was not underrated, but because of, he was a try scorer and he was so flashy with the ball, often it wasn't one of the first things that was talked about. But yesterday in attack, he absolutely...
I love that early ball to a centre. Yeah. Like when it's on, sometimes you go to a centre and just sort of give them the ball and hope that they do something. But in that situation, it was great early ball over to that edge in that sort of middle of the field transition space. That is a play that I think every rugby league fan, when you see a really class centre get that ball, moving onto the football in open space, that one-on-one battle, it's brilliant to watch.
Gordie, you played with
and he hasn't scratched the surface, really, because when he went in Penrith, and a couple of, that grand final, he doesn't get enough credit for some of the plays that he did. I know Nathan Cleary, they talk about the final 20 minutes, but Stephen Crichton in the second half and scoring that try, there was a couple of plays that he come up with that were outstanding. And when they made him the captain, I didn't go, it's the wrong decision, but I didn't know why. But now I know why. And what's a leader? Well, a leader's someone that people follow, and they're following him, and he's leading, and it's through words, it's through actions, it's through different ways, and he hasn't even scratched the surface on his game and his leadership yet. I believe
you could almost see when he scored that first try, that sense of belief, and they would have talked about at half time, but then that just the words sort of lay a very fragile foundation. But then he scored, and everybody you could see the Bulldogs team just go, "Oh, we're on, we're on here. We've got it," and they stayed to the same side of the field. Obviously, the error count in the first half, they just completely put that to one side. I thought Crichton will take a lot of the credit, but Kickout's threat on that left-hand side and the different strings to his bow, the variability in his attack makes it so difficult to defend. If sometimes you have those hard-running edge back rowers, and look, they're very difficult to handle. They run that one particular line, and you can work on that. But the range in Kickout's positions that he gets the ball in is just fantastic. Like, you don't know whether to sit back or go up, or paddle and wait for help from the inside, or jam from the outside. It's almost an impossible equation to solve when you're dealing with someone as Kickout's. Like I say, that variability and range that he possesses on that edge is incredible.
Gordie, you played with and against some of the best centres who've ever played the game. The trajectory that Stephen Crichton is on now and what he's showing, and you think that he's only 24 years of age, where does he sit?
Well, he sits amongst them, doesn't he? Just his sheer size as well. That one-handed thing, so you think of Gene Miles, right? But then his ability to lead and put people on his back, well, that's a Mel Meninga style of sitting in a dressing room going, this is what we're going to do when you come out, but like you do all the actions as well as the words. So, yeah, he's 24 and he's got to win, but if he gets the Dogs to premierships, he goes down as one of the greatest centres.
Absolutely.
That's like look at the size of him. Look at the level that he plays at. No matter who he plays against, I'm pretty sure that he can handle him physically. And then now he's just, getting those finer touches. Yeah, so, look, I played with Stephen. I played with some really good centres, and I reckon if they come up against Stephen Crichton, it's probably a question for them, but they'd be going, okay, they might have a sleepless night. They might just sit there and toss and turn a little bit, thinking of what he can do because he's such a physical presence.
Well, Laurie Daly's got some good selection headaches now, Dobbo, in terms of this New South Wales side, because the Origin sides are named this time next week. So both coaches, they've got a lot of players who are in great form to try and fit into the 17. Oh, of course. He's straight in. Yeah.
And I think Latrell put his hand up really high the other night.
Yeah. Well, I think that's very clear.
And then we're 3-2 doesn't go.
Your winning side, Dobbo, mate. You New South Wales boys change your winning side.
Gordie's going to actually give his Queensland team a little later. I'm looking forward
do you want
to
me to give one?
Yeah, I'd love you
problem.
to. Yeah. 22 points to 14. Brisbane beaten by South Sydney. Brisbane were leading 14-0 at half time. They've now lost 4 of their last 5, and there is some concern. Ben Hunt now tore the hammy off the bone, so he'll be gone for a minimum of 4 weeks. So he is out of any Origin contention as well.
Hamstring off the bone.
That's what the scan said.
That's not 4
4
weeks.
weeks.
Yeah, that's
not 4 weeks.
That's
Sounds-
like 8.
Well,
Yeah.
it could be. Well, they're just the
If
Broncos.
it's off the bone,
Well, they said it's torn off the bone. It's going to be
Did
a
you
minimum,
add GST to that?
minimum of 4 weeks. So
Yeah.
I'm not going over the top. If I said 8 weeks, that'd be GST. Let me finish.
Dr.
Now,
Dobbo.
then
Imagine that you
you know what?
got your scan results
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like,
We're
oh,
gonna
a bit
have
of
one of
dribble,
these
mate.
shows.
As soon as he
We're
said
gonna
off
have
the
one of these
bone, he
shows
was thinking
today.
like a big lamb shank.
Yeah.
The dribble just started coming off the bone.
There was some correlation, yes, but I mean, I wasn't thinking about Ben Hunt's hamstring, if I'm honest with you. So Ezra Mann plays this afternoon for
So he
South
comes
Logan,
straight
so he
back
comes
in.
straight back in. But more concerningly, I mean, on the front page of the Sunday Mail today, you've got Reece TV. Reece Walsh has started his own YouTube channel. And then down the bottom of it, you've got the Broncos on the Sydney Harbour having a cruise around on Wednesday afternoon. They've been beaten quite convincingly. I mean, South Sydney, by their own, they're absolutely, the first half were dreadful. Latrell Mitchell then just took control and they grind out a really big win. But more concerning is where the Broncos are at.
I don't have a problem with any of it.
At the moment?
If they have a cruise, what's wrong with that?
Well, the last time, like not trying to be smart, they moved the coach on right at the end of last year because they wanted a more steel edge and a harder edge. I'm not worried about the cruise. I'll get to the cruise in a minute. They've lost 4 of the last 5, and I'm not seeing at this moment anything different on last season.
Just because they had a cruise, they lost the game.
I'm not worried about the cruise.
Okay.
Put the cruise back. I'm talking about what we're seeing out in the football field at the moment. But there was also
Don't blame Matt.
There was also
You've got
an
to blame
edict.
the management at the Broncos.
Yeah, but there was also an
In
edict
August, they tried to orchestrate this.
Yeah, but hang
last
on.
August.
Gordie, there was also an edict from the club that they were getting rid of this rock star image. Remember the 6-pack thing? You got to put your shirts back on. They don't want players getting around
It's
without
not working.
shirts on.
You've got to let the players express themselves and be themselves. I trained with Darren Lockyer, who's on the board, and he should know he never had his shirt on. Did it affect his career?
No.
Wendell Saylor didn't train with a shirt on, had this number 5, and I reckon it was cubic zirconius after watching that movie Jerry Maguire with Rod Tidwell. He went and got the number and put it on so he would take his shirt off and have number 5. Michael Hancock and Willie Kahn were the wingers, and Wendell's walking around with a number 5 with 2 Australian wingers in front of him. But everybody expressed
But
themselves.
something's going on there at the moment.
Brad Thorne would do weights and he'd walk past. It doesn't, that doesn't matter. So what is wrong with them?
Well, I'm asking the three of you. I mean,
They're
clearly,
a young side,
Yep.
right? And they're learning how to win. They're learning how to do the tough stuff.
Hoops, Jammer. I don't share that. I don't think that they're playing tough at the moment.
Well,
and
you
that's,
tell me what's wrong with them.
I don't think when they get into a grind, they were up 14-0 at
Well,
half
you buy a
time.
tough player then.
Well, maybe that's it.
You don't buy a Horsburgh or you buy someone like that.
They can't buy anybody.
No, they can't buy players.
Their cap's full and they're fighting to retain people, and they're not going to go and buy anyone. They're figuring out who needs to leave, and not so they can clear the decks.
No, well, they're trying to keep Adam Reynolds. They want to keep Selwyn Cobbo. They want to keep Katoni Staggs. To make that salary cap jigsaw puzzle work, they can't go into the market. But it's already if you look at that roster on paper, it's capable of competing for a premiership. That's why they made the hard decision at the back end of last year. A lot of us didn't agree with it when they got rid of Kevy Walters. They've gone with Madge because they wanted a harder edge, better discipline. And we saw it with little statements like, you can't take your shirt off at training at the beginning of the season. But to Dobbo's point, then once you're going to go into Reece TV, where Reece is going to have his own YouTube channel and all that sort of thing, well, you're not really enforcing it, are you? If you go and...
But is that a problem of him having a YouTube
I
channel?
don't think it is. No, Gordie, not
Dobbo's
in the
got his
modern
own
world.
podcast and all that, and everybody sits there, and if he wants to sit and talk to fans and open it up, why is that a problem?
No, I don't think it is,
I don't
Gordie.
think
Not
it's
in
a
the
problem,
modern world.
but it's the optics at the moment. Okay, like I'm just being honest here. I don't have a problem with the players going on a harbour cruise.
It
I
depends.
Sounds like you do.
On the TV thing, the Reese TV. Personally, like no problem. But where it can become a problem is if you've set your environment in stone around what's acceptable and what's not, and had other players pull back, and then one player is, well, maybe not allowed to do this, but made the decision to do this. I don't know if he had any consultation with the head coach, but that's when it becomes a problem.
He would have had to. For that to be on the front page of the newspaper, Reece would have had to inform club power brokers about that decision. So they must have rubber stamped it, Dobbo. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, I assume so. I have no idea.
And that's where it becomes. That's where like look, and I don't, like Reece isn't in the team at the moment, but that's where things can bubble away underneath the surface, and it's like, well, why are we allowing this and we're not allowing other things? I think, like with Maguire, if he's been brought in to bring that hard edge, that it's not happening yet. We've not seen that results just yet. And let's not forget, this time last year, after round 10, the Broncos were 6 wins and 4 losses.
Hold on, there's been people having television careers and still playing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not
mate. When I grew up, the footy show had like Paul Harrigan on, and they had the Matty Johns, and they had the blokes that were talented, would come on, and they had the Bo Ryan. So Bo Ryan's playing it, and he's doing his own skits and all that. If you can handle it, and you can handle the criticism, and it might be something that Reece needs, and he might just get his own perception out there, and it might make him grow up and get a bit of a reality check or whatever it is for him.
I don't think any of that is an issue, but I do think that we need to look at the facts at the moment. And Brisbane could still win the comp. The comp's that close; they could still win the comp. But let's just look at the hardcore facts about what's going on the football field at the moment.
Yep.
Put aside the harbour cruises, Reece TV, because I think everybody agrees with you, Gordie. That's right. They have not improved on last year. That is just the facts. And if you look at statistically, they just haven't. Now, I'm not saying Michael Maguire's not the wrong coach, but he was brought there to do it. Well, he was brought there to do a job at the moment, and that job is not getting done at this moment. Now, I think we all would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you look at it, Dobbo, they're not getting flogged, right? So, as in terms of the scorelines, the issue is
I think last week against Penrith they got flogged, mate. I'm sorry. I think last week they got schooled against Penrith.
No, that's fair. Yeah, no, I'll take that back. Magic round, yep, that was an aberration. You can give them, you can, yep, I'll give you that, right? But if you look at the other results, so they blasted the Bulldogs off the park, then Canterbury have gone and done what they did yesterday against the Raiders. They put 50 on the Roosters to open the season. The issue is they're not staying in games, isn't it, Gordie? That they haven't been able to consistently put an 80-minute
no one
performance.
is, right? If you look at look at the Raiders, if you look at South, right? So some sides they get off to a lead and they think that their job's done, right? And some players have done that, and you just take your foot off the accelerator and you think so. Between Canberra and the Bulldogs, that pretty much happened. The Raiders were up by 20 and thought that they had the job done. Maybe Broncos go down there. They've, playing against a weaker South team, right?
Yeah.
That hasn't been playing well, and they thought that South were just going to fall over.
But I think that's it, Gordie. With the talent at Canterbury's disposal, you can see how they mounted a comeback. When with the comebacks that have happened this week, you can sort of like against the Gold, the Knights against the Gold Coast. Knights very vulnerable. Gold Coast with some of the attacking players that they have, you can see that coming. But with South Sydney's team that they had in the conditions, all the talk at halftime would have been about just staying solid. Like let's not no cheap tries. And then after 3 minutes, Havili goes over from a barge over, like. And with South's team that they had, like, South had no right to be in that contest.
I don't think we're giving Souths enough credit, though. Like Keon Kolomatangi and Jai Arrow.
They were awesome. But they're coming up against Payne Haas and Patrick Carrigan in the middle.
Yeah.
But that's all they've got. That's all they got. They need a... Like the
then what's going to happen? What's going to happen over Origin? Because they're going to lose those blokes to Origin. So this is what I'm saying. Like Brisbane... I get what
that's
you're
where
saying.
Adam Reynolds has to stand. That's when you need leadership and game management. And as I said, right, so when your forward pack's getting beaten, your half helps you, create quicker play the balls they kick and they put you in better spots. So it comes down, so they bought him for game management. He's got to manage it.
Yeah.
But it's a white elephant. But when I say it, everybody thinks that I'm picking on Adam.
No, I don't
That's
think
what
that.
they bought him for.
Yeah.
So, like your halfback, right, gets
To
you
lead
in
your
and out
side
of
around.
trouble, right?
Yep.
So your big forwards are going. But when it's really tough, like you'd see your halfback, he'd call the ball and he'd give us a rest, or he'd, spread, or they do all those little things to help you out. But and we're rolling up our sleeves and going, and the Broncos are rolling up their sleeves and going, but they're not capitalising on it. And I think they're one more big man short. And I said right at the beginning that they need another big man in the middle.
They've got
to help Payne and Carrigan.
Ben Tiacora for me, just waiting in the wings.
Yeah, he's not going that well at cup level, mate. Like that.
Okay.
That's been
All right,
honest.
well, you see him. I don't see him at cup level. You obviously do.
Don't worry. Everybody's saying that, but they're very. He's just not
that's an
going
easy.
as well.
That's an easy comment for me to make. But I think, for Brisbane, it is, if that's what Maguire was brought in to bring, that hard edge and that steel at 14-0 up away in Sydney on a wet night with a beyond depleted South Sydney. You don't let them back into the contest, and they did. And we've got other examples of teams coming back into contest this round and this year, but not South Sydney that are on the bones of the skeleton squad, skeleton staff.
But I've played enough footy. If you don't bark as a puppy, you're not going to bite as a dog, And there's not enough guys there that are that real hard edge. Like Payne Haas is I think he's going to be one of the greatest front rowers, but he's not. He's not that big, aggressive, come out, fly at a line, beat you up type of guy. He's a guy that's just going to get all of his meters, make his tackles, tie in, and you got Paddy Carrigan that's a really hard worker, but there's no Tony Carroll, there's no Trev, there's no Axe, there's no that real hard edge guy there.
Do you think Jordan Ricky has it within him, Gordie? I think in 2023, when he was playing really good football and doing the Liam Martin style of efforts, that's when I was stood up and I was like, wow, this guy's great to watch. And he's not looking at his stats. He's not looking.
They also had Flegler and Capel there.
Where is Brisbane's Liam Martin, where they just go and they're prepared to get bruises? They just want to get bruises.
Well, they had Zach Hoskins. He's down at Canberra. They had Kurt Capel. He's at the Warriors.
Yep.
They had Tom Flegler. They sent him to the Dolphins. So this is what you're looking at. You're looking at players that were there that you needed, that they couldn't afford.
Well, you know what though, Dobbo? This. I said this last year about seeping into the psyche, and there's a lot of players there still from 2023. And they tell you how difficult it is to get there and how they had that in their grasp. And then you start to look and you go, geez, how good was Flegler? You know what? Herbie Farnworth would be handy.
Yeah.
And then when we consider the past and we think what's done is done, it's not, because all those people that were telling you how hard it is, now you're actually realising how hard it is. And they did the same last year.
Dobbo?
What? Money, because he wanted number one prop money, and Payne Haas, they believed Payne Haas was the number one prop. So
who'd you hear that from?
From Tom himself. So so the Roosters chased him, and so did the Dolphins. And he didn't want to leave Queensland, so
just
he stayed.
On that, when he went to the Dolphins, did he get Payne Haas money?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he's got number one prop money. So I don't know what Payne Haas is on now, but I think he's on 800,000. Maybe Flegg's on 800,000 at the moment. And
Payne Haas is on 800.
Not now, since he's upgraded, but he was at the time. So, at the time before the cap went up. So, they didn't have that. They invested. They put their money into Carrigan.
Yeah, but
and Haas.
What they've done. Yeah, but also, Ben, what they've done, they've got 3 halfbacks at the moment, or 3 people that want to play in the halves, i.e., Reynolds, Hunt, and Mam. So
Hunt was told that he's going to be a hooker. Hunt was told by Maguire
so they've
he's
already
going to play
got
number 9.
Okay, but then they've already got hookers then. So they've got an oversupply.
Didn't you say last year they got 5 of them?
They've
got an oversupply of dummy halves and halves.
Yeah.
And an undersupply of middles.
Cam Bukowski, Tyson Smoothie, Blake Moser, Billy Walters, Corey Pakes, Ben Hunt. 6.
Yeah, so there's an oversupply in that area. So that comes down to roster management.
Well,
who makes those decisions, Dobby?
It's done by Dave Donaghy, Simon Scanlon, and Michael Maguire. They've got and Lockie's on that.
They're aiming for a style of play, which you can argue whether it's right or wrong, but it's clearly not working at the moment. If that's the road that you want to go down, an undersupply of forwards, but let's be really good in the halves.
Let's just get rid of 3 hookers and keep Selwyn Cobbo, because that's once in a generation player.
Yep.
Right? And for the young kid to write his name on the board and look for a good young halfback that's going to come in when these 2 retire.
Well, there's a
And
junior
go
there's a
by
junior
a
by the
hard
name
nose.
of Tyson Walker who
There
every
you go.
single club is chasing. I know the Cowboys are chasing him. He's down playing. He played flag he won a premiership for the Roosters playing flag. His brother Sam, mate. Why the Broncos don't go and chase him? Like you want to talk about generational halfback? There he is.
You know what, Dobbo? You're talking about the future. Let's focus on the now. And you look at that Broncos roster on paper, and any coach worth their salt would go, give me some
Everybody,
of that.
every coach,
Absolutely.
every coach.
We can dissect with the Flegler's there, Farnworth saying we've moved on. I personally still believe there's some psychological demons that haunt this team from 2023. I think it was maybe helped to nurse out of their front of mind, but I think it's still there at the back of the mind, and every now and then it just creeps up.
Gordie, Origin side gets named this time next week for Queensland, New South Wales as well. We will get next week, and obviously we'll talk about New South Wales, but the Queensland side, there was going to be some conjecture around who would win the 14 race. Who do you think will be the side that Billy Slater names next week?
Well, I don't know what Billy's going to name.
But will you name yours?
Yeah, I got Kalen Ponga at fullback. I got Selwyn Cobbo and Xavier Coates on the wings. I got Val Holmes and Tabuai Fido in the centres. Munster and DCE, I think they just pick themselves, those 2. Tino and Mo in the front row with Harry Grant. Bo Thermal and Jeremiah Nanai. In the back row, Paddy Carrigan's lock. On my bench at 14, I got Tommy Dearden, I got Tom Gilbert, I got Ruben Cotter, and I got Corey Horsburgh.
You saved yourself at the end there, Gordie. I was just about to come in and be like, where's that?
Where's the source?
Oh, listen. I'm not saying, because Lindsay Collins, how much longer was Lindsay?
Well,
out
that's
for?
the thing. I mean, the question mark around Lindsay Collins, because he's been injured, but he might have been back, but he'll play this week. So that's
He will? Yeah, right. So there's a, because obviously we're a bit light on with no Flegs and no Lindsay, and then Mo's been, he's a super consistent player, so we've got enough workers there. We need some blokes that'll cut the ball, and I think, Sauce.
Horsburgh's, he's made for Origin, isn't he? No question.
Well,
Does Willison push his way in there?
No, well, he just looks fitter. No.
You don't think he's ready yet?
No, you need 40 good quality games in the air, or 50 good quality games, or you got to be a standout. You got to be super consistent at club level, and I think Corey Horsburgh's shown that. I think this year, he's been a shining light. You talk about Tarpany and those guys, and Big Papali'i, but I think Horsburgh's been one of the best Raiders forwards every week.
Jermaine Hopgood, I know he's been at Parramatta, and he hasn't been, like Parramatta haven't been going that well, but his form's been pretty good. Is he potentially a chance? Could he come in there or put some pressure in?
Of course, it's that's just the ones that I thought of and picked. Of course, there's going to be guys like that are going to, put their hand up, and you got Sewer. Mate, there's some players out there that Capewell's probably going to go. There's
Sewer,
mate. There's Sewer. There's someone, and then whether Murray Talangi makes it. Mate, there's some guys that Jai Arrow was really good. So Jai Arrow might be one of those guys that forces his way in there as well, and just light on in the middle and get through them. So we've got a little bit of depth. Billy's got a headache, and pretty much like Laurie Daly, but it's not a migraine. There's not too many injuries. I reckon Oregon is going to be, in game 1 anyway, there's going to be 2 really good footy sides.
Will Harry Grant be right, Dobbo?
He's touch and go. You obviously, it'll be next week. And Cotter's suspended for another. So Cotter will get no match. He won't get a match before because he's got another.
But he's been there and done it before. You know what you get out of him.
Yeah,
there's some of those guys that get a break.
Yeah,
and it sort of helps them. And I think Harry Grant was carrying a couple other injuries, so that might freshen him up. And Harry might blow a little bit, but with Tommy Dearden there, and if not, we'll just pick a number 9.
Who do they pick if there's no Grant? Because obviously Ben Hunt.
we got Reid Marnie.
Yeah, Reid Marnie. wouldn't you think that?
Yeah,
Just that, he's been around the squad. I think he was there last year.
Yep.
He was having dinner with them, so there'll be someone that'll stand up and put on a Queensland jersey and do his job.
It's an interesting thing. I mean, Tino and Mo, straight out of the Titans, and both of them have been going.
Well, Tino's
well.
been playing unbelievable
football.
Mm.
Tino's one of those guys that pick himself, and Mo's, but I didn't realise that Lindsay Collins might be back as well. So that's a nice headache, and I think they'll pick Payne. So they'll have a pretty big side, and Lenu and they were really powerful last year. Like that game in Melbourne is one of the most powerful performances I've ever watched from any side.
Oh, does Ethan Bullymore? Does he come into? I know, obviously he's playing this afternoon against Cronulla.
But
I know he's not there, but I'm talking as a bench player.
Whose place does he take? Does he take Tommy Gilbert?
No, he doesn't.
Does he take Ruben Cotter?
No.
Right. And can he play front row like Horsburgh?
Yeah, I think Horsburgh's definitely got to be there. I mean, Jamo, your thoughts on? I mean, Gordie's named it. I think the back line picks itself.
Yeah,
I really do.
That back line is almost set in stone if everybody's fit. I think Murray Talangi probably will be disappointed, but I think you can understand when you've got those wingers at your disposal. So hard for him to force his way in. But the forward pack is an interesting mix. I think just the most important thing for Queensland is Tino survives till next week. I think they missed him last year. They missed that presence in the middle, and he's battle hardened as well. He knows how to scrap and to fight, and I'm looking forward to watching him, play alongside it and playing in a team and an environment that is very much suited to him. He's having to do a lot of extra things for the Titans, and I think he won't have as much responsibility. I can't imagine Billy Slater telling him to keep those chip kicks going that he's been putting into his performances the past couple of weeks, which are great to watch. But no, I think the most important person in that pack of forwards, minus Harry Grant, is Tino.